Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 20th, 2022 Worcester Township Board of Supervisors business meeting. If you would please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening, folks. My name is Rick DeLello. I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Lou Betts, who's our vice chair. To my right is Steve Quigley, who is our third member. For those of you who are at the work session, sorry for the duplication. But on the front table, we have Bob Brandt, who's our township solicitor, and we have Joe Nolan, who's our township engineer. And on the back table, we have Stacy Crandell, who is our assistant township manager, and Tommy Ryan, who is our township manager. First and foremost, does anybody have any informational items for the board?
I do, Mr. Chairman. The board met in executive session on March 28th, 2022 on a personnel matter. The board met again on April the 7th, 2022 on a personnel matter. And the board met tonight at 6 o'clock or 6:15 or so regarding both a real estate and a personnel matter. And no decisions were made.
Thank you, Bob. Does anybody else have any informational items for the board?
This evening's meeting is being video recorded for rebroadcast.
Thank you, Tommy. So first item on our agenda is public comment. We do ask that you limit your public comment to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any public comment for the board this evening? Seeing none, I will move forward. First item on our agenda is an official action item, which is going to be for the consent agenda. First and foremost, do any board members wish to remove any items from our consent agenda tonight?
No.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion if somebody would be kind enough to make one.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the following items: treasurer report, bill payment, March 16 business meeting minutes.
And I will simply add that the payment of the bills is going to be in the amount of $464,363.34. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that is on the floor? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 2022-10. This is going to be a resolution to grant preliminary/final plan approval for the Marcolina LD 2022-02, which is a lot line change at Water Street Road. Is this Joe or Tommy who has a little more info for me?
I can just
Stacy.
I can take care of that for you. The applicant is here this evening along with the engineer. I'll have them come up as well. This is just a simple lot line change. It was approved. We received review letters from the township engineer that approved it with no issues, and the county as well. So it's the Planning Commission approved it on their March meeting with no issues.
Thank you. So Joe, I saw your review letter. It looked like it went through a couple of iterations, but then kind of got a clear delineation. If you could just kind of confirm that for us.
Yes, the latest letter from me is dated March 1st, and that indicated that the four initial comments that I set forth in my first review letter were addressed. And as Stacy indicated, there's no new lot associated with this. It's really just to straighten out the geometry of the two lots, quite frankly. So,
Gotcha. I don't have any specific questions. It's pretty straightforward from my perspective, but either of the other board members have any specific questions for the applicant or for Joe regarding this item?
No, I do not.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion if you'd like to make one.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-10. Want me to read the whole thing? Approval of Marcolina,
Marcolina, I believe.
2022-02, lot line change.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you for your patience in coming in, and have a nice night. So next up, we've got Resolution 2022-11, which is going to be a resolution to set a tapping fee and to accordingly amend the 2022 fee schedule. Does anyone have any information on this?
Yeah. I can take it if you'd like. Okay. If the board recalls, I performed a tapping fee evaluation a few years ago, and that it resulted in a tapping fee of approximately $1,900. The tapping fee law allows periodic adjustments of the tapping fee based on improvements that have been made by the entity, in this case, the township, and also by utilizing the engineering news record construction index to adjust pricing in accordance with that index. That's an index that comes out every month. Engineers use it all the time to bring costs from previous years up to current cost as a result of inflation and increased pricing. And that goes back, God, I think it goes back like 30, 40 years. I did update that, the tapping fee at the beginning of the year, and I prepared a table showing the updating of the cost in conjunction with the tapping fee law. It's called Table 1, it's attached to the resolution, and it's entitled Tapping Fee Calculation 2021. And based on the most recent evaluation, the township is able to charge a maximum of $3,200 for a sewer tapping fee.
So Joe, just a couple of quick questions on, so it looks like the last time we did this adjustment was 2016. Is this something that should be done on an annualized basis, or what kind of drives when we should consider something like this?
That's a good question. And it really depends on, number one, how much change is going on. For instance, for my authority clients, Warminster Municipal Authority, I do it annually because there's a lot going on. Every year they're putting millions of dollars into upgrading and refurbishing their older system, and all of that money can become part of a new tapping fee calculation. Plus, the ENR index does go up every year, so you can also pick up that 1% or whatever it is based on the actual increase in index. For Worcester, it's been since 2016, so it's been, 7 years. And really, with what's going on, I would suggest maybe every 3 years updating it, unless you have a large project that can be added in to update that cost. Currently, we have a project or I think right now is estimated at $750,000 at the Valley Green Wastewater Treatment Plant. You can add into the tapping fee calculation.
Okay.
So it really depends on your circumstances. I think I brought it to the attention of Tommy to redo it because of, it's been several years, and that's why we did it this time. But
We certainly want to be fair with what the market is, but we also want to be, there's just a mechanic of getting it into our cycle of frequency, I guess.
And I can tell you from other municipalities that $3,200 is a pretty low sewer tapping fee.
You just answered my question. Where are we in relationship to other townships, as someone so eloquently stated, as far as hiding things in fees? But if you want sewer, you're going to pay for the sewer to tap in. So we have sort of a captive audience here. Are we going too low with this? I mean, if you need sewer, when you're putting, I went through the real estate transfer tax, and these people are paying well over $1 million to these houses in Worcester, and we're the ones stuck with the burden paying the fines for DEP when something goes wrong in the sewer plant. So do we need to start having a cushion there to pay for the problems we have? We're not in a sewer business, Worcester Township.
Well, you are.
know,
You really are.
I mean, we're not, but we don't, compared to other townships, they have a full sewer plant taking care of things. And I think some of these fees or fines come in conjunction sometimes with a lack of education or a lack of personnel having experience with these sewer plants. So I guess my question is, being as we're doing, are we too low? I mean,
Well,
if we're at the low end of the ballpark, why are we there?
it's not a matter of whether you're too low, it's a matter of what you're legally able to calculate.
So
And
what are we legal, are we,
We're at the, 3,200 is the maximum that you can recoup.
So if you look at the attached schedule that Joe prepared, there's certain elements that go into that calculation. So you can't just say, we want it to be $4,900. You have to rationalize
That was-
why it's 3,200.
That was my
That's why
question.
that table is attached.
Right. And for instance, the original treatment plant, Valley Green Treatment Plant, that was constructed and given to the township by the developer. When Center Point Farms was built, the developer built the second phase of that treatment plant. You cannot include any facilities that were dedicated to you or given to you in the calculation, because that would be double dipping. So you have to exclude anything that's dedicated to you by a developer in that calculation. You can only include costs that you, the township, incurs in expanding, constructing, upgrading the system.
so with the rising legal fees in the township, are the legal fees included in that? I mean, you said cost. I'm just asking, what cost?
Bob, are you on table 2, or is there a table 2 for Bob?
Technically, you can include project cost in the calculations, which would include construction, engineering, administration, legal. So to answer your question, yes, but I can tell you from experience that the legal end is extremely low.
Well, you know, I go back to, and I can say it now, looking back when we did the sewer plant, the rebuilding, remodeling of it, I think in that cost, I'll go low. I think it was 23% of the cost of the sewer plant were related to legal and engineering costs in there, somewhere in that spreadsheet.
I can check the numbers, but.
Yeah,
Well, any.
I'm not debating that. I'm just asking, are we covering our costs, the things
Yes.
associated with that? Okay.
Yes.
And
That's
we're
one of
bound
my,
that we only go so far anyway, so.
yeah, one of my tasks is accumulating all those costs, which I have, as you
Okay.
see. This table is now set up, so it makes it very easy for me to update, add to.
Good.
As I said, the project we're doing now, we'll be able to include. As an example of what we can include, the reserve has a brand-new pumping station that they built, which is part of their development. We can't include the cost of that station because that was given to us.
Right.
When we have a grant funding for a project, we have to subtract the grant monies from the project.
Yeah.
So you
I think
don't double dip.
Rick summed it up by saying, hey, let's not wait so long. As you said, that if we're at the max right now, we'll just revisit it in a couple of years rather than waiting so long.
Yeah, every couple of years, maybe next year, once this project's completed, we may want to do it again. You have a small system, so a big project impacts it. So, you know, that's why you want to sort of be reactive when you see something like that. So, I will watch it.
Joe, let me ask you another question. With their neighbors having problems in Temenson, are they guided by the same regulations when Aqua takes over the sewer plant? How are their rates set up for the EDUs?
That's all part, well, Aqua is regulated by the PUC, which is, because they're private. It's not regulated by, you know, Municipals Authorities Act or anything like that, which would regulate a municipal entity. So they're a for-profit company, and their rates have to be approved by the PUC. And normally what happens in a situation like this, when a sewer system or water system is sold, the entity that's selling it gets a guarantee that they're not going to raise rates for 2 or 3 years, but then when that 2 or 3 years are up, you know, your rates are they're gonna go up significantly. So that's the downside.
So if Worcester would think about selling their sewer plant to somebody, that would be like Tementon did. That's one of the things we have to look at, the rising cost or cost associated with that.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides. I mean, you're giving up control. I'll be honest with you. I've been involved in several sales of sewer systems from the authority side. I've been involved in fighting a takeover from the authority side. Right now, I don't know if you saw the article, Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority is worth $1 billion, and they have people wanting to buy them for $1 billion. Talmenton, I don't know how much they're getting, but it's in the millions of
lot.
dollars. How much?
150,
$150 million.
15.
Oh, 115. That's a lot of money to walk
Well,
away
we could sell our sewer plants and have an automatic open space fund.
You know what, if we had a solicitor that could broker that $1 billion deal, I think we'd be supportive of that. Yeah,
Hey,
I'd support that one.
People are buying sewer systems,
crazy.
water systems left and right.
a lot of the older residents are on their own septic system, so
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
thank you.
I
Thank you,
hope
Joe.
I'd answer all your questions.
Yep.
Lou, do you have anything additional?
You guys covered it all.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion then.
Motion to approve the resolution 2022-11 for the 2022 fee schedule, tapping fees.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is going to be Resolution 2022-12, which is a resolution to support the Pennsylvania Commission for the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial. Lou, I'm not going to make you say that word.
Good.
So what are we doing for the semi-quincentennial? Has anyone got any information for us on that?
At the request of the State Association of Township Supervisors, a resolution in support of Pennsylvania's involvement with the founding of the nation on our 250th anniversary.
Thank you, Tommy. Does anybody have any particular comment they want to make or any questions? If not, we can just make a motion on that.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2022-12 for the Pennsylvania Commission for the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial.
Well done.
Attaboy.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have Resolution 2022-13, which is going to be a resolution to amend the Worcester Township Personnel Manual. Baby Bob, you could just give us a couple of quick words on this.
Be happy to. There was some suggestion that there be some confirmation that Worcester Township could not enter into private property for any purpose without the consent of the owner. And this resolution was directed by the board to have me draft it to sort of confirm that. The best place for that resolution would be the personnel manual. And it very simply states that relating to private property access, that first of all, police, fire, ambulance, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but police, fire, and ambulance and that type of thing, when they're acting in their official scope of their capacity, they can enter private property without any notification. Secondly, the building inspector, fire marshal, assistant fire marshal, zoning officer, and assistant zoning officer, when they're doing an investigation or an enforcement capacity or official scope of duty, they may also enter private property without prior notification. However, all other township employees and their consultants are required to obtain the permission of the record owner of the property before accessing private property. And then finally, there's exceptions to that. Township employees and consultants are allowed to enter private property when there's already written permission, either through an easement or written agreement without prior notification. And township employees and consultants and contractors acting in good faith are able to access private property to address an immediate threat, very similar to the very first one. So that would amend your personnel manual and mandate everyone act in that capacity.
Mr. Brandt, where does a drone fit into that package?
Where's a what?
A drone?
Not in there. It's not accessing private property.
Well, an invasion of private property, if I'm sitting outside, I'm just asking the question.
Oh, it's not you're not accessing private property with a drone.
Talking about airspace, what's the definition of airspace? So is it, what's the property owner own? Up to 8 feet, 10 feet?
Well, it's not addressed here.
Well, so we can sit, I'm just asking a question, so you can sit out of the road in the car and fly the drone into the person's backyard, 3 feet off the ground, that's acceptable.
That would be, then I would say that may be a violation, because you didn't tell me it was up here, you said it's going.
Well, I'm just asking what the height requirement is for,
There's no height
there's nothing,
requirement in this.
okay.
So let me ask the question in a different direction. So there are scenarios that it potentially doesn't, that might pop up. But in general, it looks like it's sort of a best practices approach.
You folks asked me when this started to go back, and I did it anecdotally, I didn't do a formal study, but
Yep.
I went back and I checked of the 12 or so municipalities and authorities and such that I represent. You asked me which ones of those had a policy, and the answer is none of them had a written
Okay,
policy.
gotcha.
I think I told you that.
Yep.
Maybe.
Right.
But in following your mandate, this, I think, memorializes what the concern is, and it's it's my best attempt at trying to regulate it.
Have something,
That's what you got.
gotcha, okay, thank you.
Okay. I mean, look, Bob, I think it codifies, a couple of the pieces of it, and we'll deal with anything thereafter, I think, as it pops up. So I think it'll establish what it is that we
Right.
attempted to do, I guess is the, and if anybody wants to make a motion on that, I will entertain it.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-13 to amend the personnel manual.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Jim?
Jim Malik, Worcester. This is to Mr. Brandt. This, is this thing you just did, this addition to the manual, based on current law?
Personnel manual, yeah.
Yeah, current law, right?
Yes.
Has the law changed recently?
Not that I know of.
Okay. So what I heard you say is that the zoning officer in their official capacity can go on a property without needing consent. Is that correct?
Let me see here. When acting in a investigatory or enforcement capacity and in an official scope of duty, may access private property without prior notification.
Correct. So basically, when the zoning officer's doing their job, they can go on without consent.
Yes.
Who's our zoning officer?
Tommy Ryan.
Presently the township manager, but it could be
Correct.
another,
Tommy Ryan.
Yeah.
And the zoning officer doesn't go, like in his spare time, as a private citizen to people's property, does he?
No, not
Yeah.
no.
Good. Very nice job, by the way. And you better tell Steve our legal,
Worry on that. I got to work on that drone language.
yeah, well, you better tell Steve that our legal fees are extremely low. He doesn't realize that.
Not this month. They're not. Thank you.
Jim, thank you for your comments. Is there any additional public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have Resolution 2022-14, which is going to be a resolution to approve an intermunicipal agreement for the Skipback Watershed Alliance. Joe?
Joe and I are going to tag team this,
That's perfect.
and I'm going to go first.
Fair enough.
So Joe's been working on this a lot longer than me, but this is a final version of a intergovernmental agreement that implements a joint pollution reduction plan for what's called the Skipback Creek watershed. The goal is to very simply reduce pollution in the Skipback Creek watershed, and the plan details very very significant detail, best management practices that are necessary to reduce pollutants in what they call the watershed. It's Worcester, Towamencin, Hatfield, Skippack, and Lower Providence, and each needs to seek the approval of the governing body for this to be implemented. There's a notice that's being published by DEP for public comment by May 18th. And then each township will hold their own public meeting, which we're doing tonight. And the last one will be Hatfield Township on the 25th. Yeah. And the reduction plan's available for review and public comment for a 30-day period. So the plan then can be formally adopted by DEP. So essentially, this will act as the public hearing for that. And,
No,
no?
that's what I, no.
Okay.
There will be a public hearing next month.
Yeah, well, that's why we're tag teaming this. But
So
that's
this is step one, and then next month we
step
have
one, and
a,
then
we have a public hearing.
Public hearing, yep.
Okay.
This is just for the agreement between the municipalities so that the plan can be submitted to DEP. We have to have the agreement in place.
Gotcha. And as I recall, there was a talk of disbanding this and some confusion, and then you went back and sort of worked, and everybody kind of came to a meeting of the minds on how to sort of distribute the dollars more equitably across the municipalities. Is this?
Yes, this started out as 6 municipalities. Lower Salford ended up dropping out because
Yep.
they decided they could do it cheaper on their own. We had a half dozen meetings, and there was not contention, but there was differences of opinion on what's the best way to come up with dividing the dollars amongst the different municipalities.
Right.
Quite frankly, it was Tommy who came up with the final solution. That was eventually, I put it into memo form and presented it to the group, and everybody finally agreed that that was the best way to do it. And it's a fixed percentage. It doesn't matter what township the improvements are constructed in. We're all in this together. We all share in the cost by a fixed percentage, and our percentage is 16.25%, and that table's in the agreement, and that's what we pay.
Right. And as I recall, again, from the past meeting, there was no perfect way to do that, but ultimately that was the most equitable way to sort of align costs to what benefit you were getting as a municipality.
And everybody agreed after they looked at it and thought about it, that everybody jumped on board at that point. And, the plan that was advertised is called the Multi-Municipal Pollution Reduction Plan. That plan has been advertised, and a copy of that plan is in the township building. If any resident wants to come look at it, it's there for their perusal. Comments are due, as Bob said, May 18th. And then we will have a public hearing, the May meeting. And I'll put together a brief PowerPoint presentation just to refresh everybody's memory of what's going on.
So there's still a step that we need to take, but these are the mechanics of us being able to put this in front of DEP prior to that, is that?
Well, I can tell you that DEP has already reviewed this and given it their blessing. So it's not going to be a long, lengthy process at this point.
Okay.
The gentleman who is running herd on this in DEP is retiring in July, and he said he wants this in place before he sails off into the sunset. So I think this is going to be, once we submit this jointly to DEP, I think it's going to be a very quick turnaround time. And we'll have our joint permit, which will be, from my understanding, the first one in the entire state.
Excellent.
And the goal here is to use that for funding of some of these large projects.
Question. Tommy, maybe you know the answer. I don't know if Mr. Brandt knows. I saw the other day, I believe Mr. Webster and Mr. Bradford the two local state reps had a cleanup in the skip-back, I think it was last weekend, encouraging people to come out. Was there any feedback on the success of that? And I tie that into the question, although it's not our township, a lot of our residents use part of the Evansburg Park. It's a disaster over there with the flood problems. And if those two gentlemen were walking through the park, they had to see a number of the bridges are tore up and the blacktops tore up. And hopefully they, through their tour of cleaning the trash and litter up, they recognize some of the limits the park has because of the water problems over there. And the dead trees are just, they bang the bridges and roads over there. It's really a mess. So have you heard any feedback from the cleanup or people involved in that?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody have any specific questions for Joe or Bob regarding the document and what we're approving with this resolution?
Nope.
Okay, then if somebody wants to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-14 for the intermunicipal agreement for the Skipback Watershed Alliance.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Resolution passes. Next up, we have a bid award. This is going to be a motion to award bids for the Mount Kirk Park Improvement Project.
Thank you. You have in your packet two letters, one for the general construction and one for the electrical construction. This is a project which will construct a pavilion with restrooms at the East Mount Kirk Park, which the township does own. The township has already pre-purchased the pavilion. It is a 22 by 40 by 54 foot pavilion with a 16 by 16 enclosed area, 2 restrooms, and a storage area. There will be electric to the site, and there will also be sewer service and water supply. And all of that is part of the project. The anticipated delivery date of the pavilion is sometime in May. We don't have a firm date yet. But the general construction needs to proceed in order to construct the pad for which the pavilion will be installed upon. The general construction contract is for a contractor to actually do all the site work, the utility work, and also construct the pavilion. It's a package that will arrive on a tractor trailer, and it needs to be assembled on site. Low bid for that was $189,455, and the bid was submitted by Gordon Baver of Pennsburg. We've worked with him before on similar type projects, and we are recommending that the township award the general construction contract to Baver for their bid amount.
Joe, just a question. The park over there is pretty flat, and I don't know with the construction there, will there be much work on the surface around it to control any water problems, or won't it really impact that at all?
Yes. In addition to the pavilion, this year in the road program, we're going to repave that parking lot,
Okay.
regrade it, make it bigger. And then as part of this project, there's also underground seepage pit that is part of it for stormwater management.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So just in our packet, and forgive me if I lost place, but there's also a document regarding a $67,000 bid.
That's electrical, the electrical, that's the second one I'm going to do.
Okay, but I just don't see it on our agenda. That's why I'm asking. Are we treating it all as one?
Well, I think it says bids.
Oh, I'm sorry, bids.
So there's a
We can
general,
take them as two separate items then. Okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
they're two separate contracts.
Got it. So I'm getting ahead of myself, so, okay. Does anybody have any additional questions for Joe regarding the first bid that we're talking about here, which is the $189,455?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
Okay, then we can make a motion on that.
So We'll make a motion to award the bid, I guess, for the Mount Kirk Park Improvement Project for the 189,455.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So then, Joe, I'll hand it back to you for the second part of
Okay.
that bid.
Just a point of interest, this project, we did receive a grant, money, we received grant money towards it, I believe it was like, yeah, it was a $150,000 grant that will go towards this, so it's being paid partially with grant funds. The second bid for the same project is for the electrical construction, which will be the construction of an electrical service from East Mount Kirk Avenue back into the site, which is approximately 900 feet. And then also the electrical devices that are part of the package, which include things such as lighting panel. This project will require a grinder pump for the sewage from the restroom. So there'll be electrical for that, and that's all included in the electrical bid. So that's, and that has to be bid separately by state law. So that is $67,000. If you look at the bid tab, you'll see that that is significantly lower than the others, and the contractor was contacted. He did make a mistake in his bid, but he came right back and said he still will honor his bid and do the work. So, which I thought was very atypical of what we normally see. And he's a small contractor, quite frankly. He has low overhead, and obviously references are important, but I contacted 3 references, and they all use him for pavilion-type projects. There's a company that builds pavilions, and they use him to do all the electrical work. So I think he's qualified to do that. And, you know, it's good to have and he's local. So
Yep.
it's good to have a local contractor that will hopefully, if he does good work, we can use him ourselves in the future. So I would recommend that contract be awarded to O'Malley Electric for $67,000.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the additional commentary on the bid amount, because obviously there was a noticeable underbidding, if you will, relative to all the other bids that we received, and that's usually an outlier and a red flag for us. So I appreciate you taking those extra steps. Does anybody have any additional questions for Joe on this particular bid?
Nope.
Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to the bid award for the $67,000 electrical portion of the Mount Kirk Park Improvement Project.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next up, we have another bid award. It's going to be a motion to award a bid for the 2022 Culvert Improvement Project. This is you again, Joe, is it not?
Yes. This is part of the road program, but it was bid separately because of the nature of the work. There are 3 locations in the township. Do we have that map? Okay, I can explain where they are. One is at the intersection of Water Street and Quarry Hall Road. The second is along Woodland between Valley Forge and Trooper. And the third is along Quarry Hall Road at the low point in the road. We've done some previous work there, and this is to do additional work. So there's 3 small drainage projects which we designed in conjunction with Public Works, and we prepared plans, specifications, and we received 6 bids, and the low bidder was Plymar Construction of Plymouth Meeting in the amount of $86,315. We've worked with Plymar before, and they actually did one of the culvert projects in the township, this township, several years ago, and we've always had good success with them working on projects. So their bids are in order, and I would ask for an approval to award this bid to Plymar Construction for their bid amount of $86,315.
Thanks, Joe. Could you, your review letter talks about it being a unit price contract. If you maybe just take a second to explain why there might be a variable component to this?
Yeah, unit price contracts break down the project. For instance, piping is by linear foot, and the contractor will bid on X dollars per linear foot. Excavation, sometimes if you dig down and to put in piping and you find a wet area, it's sopping wet, what we make the contractor do is over excavate to get down to drier earth, and then they fill it back in with stone. There's a bid item for over excavation as directed by the engineer. So there's a whole slew of categories, square yard of paving restoration, things like that, that we base the contract on the final field measurements, and then we recalculate, and it could be, a lot of times it's less. But if we run into a problem, we'll have unit prices, or if we get out there and we need them to put in an extra 5 feet of pipe, rather than doing a change order, we'll just say, well, we have a unit price for 5 feet of pipe. So it's not going to be this exact amount in most cases, but it could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more.
Do you typically find in those scenarios that the variances are very modest? I mean, it would seem a way that somebody could conceivably get a low bid if they wanted to, if there were enough of unit price items, I guess.
Yeah, we're very conscientious. We quantify, and we quantify the units. We check if Public Works is doing the inspection, they'll give us the units. As you can see, these bids were all very close.
Yep.
So I'm not concerned that there's any games going to be played. And, you know, we only pay them for what they construct.
Right.
As I said, we have a lot of these projects where we get into it and we find things aren't as bad as we anticipated, and, you know, we don't have to over excavate, and we don't have to do those things. So a lot of the extra items that we include just in case, if we don't use those items, the bid will be less. So.
I guess my question is, Rick, sort of following up on your question, because, you know, it says in there that the bid's $86,315, and please note the unit contract, and it could vary. And as you mentioned, Joe, there's 3 contractors within $10,000 with not a lot of money there, but they're all have the same requirements. They knew that when they bid that they're in the business that there is a little fluctuation.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
know.
essentially, they were all treated fairly. I think that's maybe what Rick was asking, the same thing I'm asking, that there's no hidden things here.
No, and in the bid documents, every one of those items is very clearly defined, what it includes and what it
Okay.
doesn't include. So there's no wiggle room here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Does anybody have any additional questions for Joe on this particular bid item?
I don't
Okay, and I'll entertain a motion.
make them.
So
You have a question on the bid?
if you have a question on the bid, so what'll happen is that there'll be a motion and a second and then public comment. That's okay?
I'll make a motion that for the bid award for the Plymar, is it Plymar, O'Malley?
No, this is Plymar. This is
Plymar Construction
Plymar Construction.
for the 2022 culvert improvement project.
I'll second that.
Excuse me. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor?
Jeremy Quinn, Windy Hill Road. Good evening. My comment question on this agenda item is just a little bit of clarification or help in understanding how projects like these get prioritized or decided on when they go out for bid or, you know, get township money allocated to fix them.
Okay. Joe, do you want to sort of speak to this particular project, or just in general kind of how we manage that?
Public Works director, Bob DeHolster, contacts me and says he has several drainage projects that we want to do this year. I meet with him in the field, go over exactly what he wants, take pictures, send my surveyor out there, and include the projects in a bid. And the township budgets those monies to do the work.
Okay. So, go ahead.
May I ask how long these projects were, or how long ago they were raised to the township for consideration?
I don't have
This
any.
year, I mean, we did this, I met with Bob,
Last year, it's part of the
Yeah.
budgeting process.
yeah, late last year to determine what we would need to be in the project this year. So they're not,
It's similar to the road program. We develop the projects in advance of the budget preparation, so we can give the board a budget that provides the funds to do the projects that need addressing in the coming year.
So typically, it's an annualized process, Jeremy, is what I'm hearing, and when we do our budgeting in the fall, those are items that'll get built into the budget, and then in the following year, in this case, these were 2021, done in 2021 for 2022 budget, I guess is kind of how that articulates, and it's an ongoing, as I recall, we list a number of items in our budget in terms of like a project list that's at the back end as attachments, if I remember correctly, on outstanding projects and things, just so that we're trying to have lists of things, and ultimately we defer to the Public Works and the township staff to make a determination on which projects make the most sense, just like the road program on an annualized basis.
Yeah, it makes sense, thank you. The one that comes to mind to me that I would question, and I live on Windy Hill Road, but there's so many times when a Dare Road comes up to these meetings, and I run through that road, and I'm just thinking to myself, wow, that's one of those roads that, you know, might be able to use some township help to make it better, because it doesn't look good. It sounds like from the residents, it's not working good. That's just one that I might have expected to see a little bit of help for those residents back there. So thank you for the information, appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments, Jeremy. Is there any other public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is going to be an appointment, and it's going to be a motion to approve Belmar Kelly LLP as special counsel, and I'll hand this over to you, Bob, to
Yeah, there's
handle.
a consideration to appoint Andy Belwar of Belwar Kelly LLP as special counsel for personnel, and that's here on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Bob. There's, ultimately, you just need to make a motion. Is my, just a motion and a second, and then,
I'll make a motion to appoint Belwar Kelly LLP special counsel.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Bob, do I still need to open it to public comment, even though it's a personnel issue and we can't
Well, you
speak
can
to it?
take public comment, but, you know, you can take public comment
Okay.
on the appointment, sure.
Fair enough. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have other business. Does any board member have any other business they wish to bring before us tonight?
Listening to the news, I see some of these opioid settlements are coming out. Mr. Brandt, has been any number discussed as far as Worcester is going to
No,
get?
no,
Nothing?
we received no correspondence, and I'd asked the manager, I don't believe we received any correspondence on that.
How's that done? I mean, they just send you a notice? Who divvies the pie up, I guess?
Well, the state and county would administer the money, and I think it would be derived from the state attorney general, which is how it's been handled.
Is it done by incidents or deaths? I mean, how do you,
I don't know.
you don't know the
I
formula for
don't know
that?
until we get, if we would get an allocation, I could find out for you, but we don't have that yet.
I'm just, okay, thank you.
But we did approve to be part of the settlement ultimately. We just,
Otherwise, we'd be litigating with those entities ourselves, and that was the reason that you
Gotcha.
decided not to do that.
understood. Okay.
As much as I'd like the work, being facetious.
You got enough to do.
Fair enough. Okay, next up, we have public comment. Again, we ask that you limit your public comment to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any public comment for the board tonight? Seeing, Jimmy, you raising your hand back there? Apologies, I can't see. Are we good? Perfect. Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful night.